And this lady doesn't even have a cell phone or a computer. And I don't think she really can afford stuff too much. She just took it upon herself to make that happen. And I would say it really needs to happen in Pennsylvania. Okay. Now, okay, next one comes up is, you've heard of my book, The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope? Well, a friend of mine has me on his radio show every Thursday on Liberty Roundtable. He was with us in Valley Forge. His name is Sam Bushman, and he's blind. He says, you know what? He says, I'd really like to have your book electronically so I can have my machine read it to me or something. He goes, why don't you just put it on CD? And so I read the book on CD and had a project because of him and some other people that have said that they don't have time to read, but they do have time to put a CD in a CD player in their car. And so this is me reading this book to you, or to whomever you think would really benefit from having one in their car or with them in that way. So this is, of course, the book that got me on the most recent speaking tour, The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. Its prequel came out in 1999, The Proper Role of Law Enforcement. You'll notice I don't do, this was the only work I ever did that's kind of big, and I don't like to do that. I don't like big books. Even if I'm reading and I'm really into a book, I know I'm not going to have time to finish. I'm going to put a book down, and I'm not going to have time to go back to it if it's 700 pages long. Okay? But these, nobody has an excuse not to read them. 30 pages, 50 pages, you know, take you 20 minutes for this one and take you 30 minutes for this one, and you can read it. So the proper role of law enforcement is something that I felt like writing 10, 11 years ago to get some things off my chest that I saw law enforcement doing that are absolutely improper. And first of all, I want you to know that this details my conversion story from a by-the-numbers jerk to a constitutional guard, or a constitutional cop, or constitutional sheriff. And it's all about, based on the oath of office. And right here, it talks about how we've allowed the law enforcement agency known as the Gestapo, sorry, that was a mistake. The IRS, not the Gestapo. Gosh, what a slip, huh? That we should actually be protecting our citizens from the IRS, and that we've allowed the federal government to run roughshod in our counties and local jurisdictions. And then Waco and Ruby Ridge come up in that as well. And then with that, it seems to be right in line. And on page, I want to point out something in this book. I don't know if somebody that you've read this and you didn't catch it, but I was trying to be funny, and my wife says I do that too often. So I was trying to be funny in the book. On page 17, the last little 2 lines goes like this, about keeping our oath and following the Constitution and erecting barriers against the federal government. Doing so is right and proper and in accordance with our oath of office to support this constitutional republic. How could we do otherwise? And if we do otherwise, what does that make us? Turn the page, and the next chapter is redcoats. Oh, now you get it. Okay. So it does make us contemporary redcoats for government. And far too often our police state, or our state police, seems like it's one and the same, are far too often concerned with protecting government instead of keeping their oath. And that's what this book really gets into. And it asks a question, it begs a question, I think, on page 1 of the book, where it says, let us not be deceived. Forced equality through governmental redistribution of wealth and the removal of religious beliefs and expressions from our public institutions all come directly from the Marxist platform. Do we know and understand that? We are embracing, we are holding dear in this country, the things we fought 2 world wars to stop. And now we are embracing it as part of our political landscape. And then the very next paragraph has a warning from Thomas Jefferson. When all government shall be drawn to Washington as the center of all power, it will render powerless the checks provided and become as venal and oppressive as the government from which we separated. End quote. My question then in this book, and the answer where I connect all the dots for the answer, is to whom can the people turn for peace, safety, and protection when government becomes venal and oppressive? Well, I think that's kind of an obvious answer. And then, and I don't have too many of these, but this was the first book I ever wrote, 1994. And you want to talk about oath keepers? Well, I don't know. Do you remember that song by Barbara Mandrell? I was country when country wasn't cool. That one? I won't sing the whole thing because I don't know it. But